If stories of betrayal and unfaithful partners keep you hooked, welcome home. Show some love with a like and hit subscribe to join our community. My name is Rachel, and I never thought I'd be telling this story. 6 months ago, I had what I believed was a solid marriage. 8 years with David, 2 beautiful kids, and a third one on the way. I thought I knew everything about my husband. I thought I knew everything about my best friend, Jennifer. I was wrong about both of them. It's strange how life can shatter in a single moment. One text message. That's all it took to destroy everything I'd built over the past decade. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, from when everything still seemed normal, back when I was blissfully ignorant of the betrayal happening right under my nose. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September, when my world started cracking at the edges, though I didn't realize it yet. I was 5 months pregnant, exhausted from chasing around Sophia and Noah all day, and desperately trying to keep my anxiety under control. My mom, Linda, had been diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's just 3 months earlier, and the progression was frighteningly fast. The doctor said it was aggressive, one of those cruel cases where the decline happens in months instead of years. David had been my rock through all of it, or so I thought. When Mom got her diagnosis, he held me while I sobbed for hours. He went with me to doctor's appointments, helped me research care facilities, and even suggested I quit my job as an HR coordinator so I could spend more time with her and save money on daycare for the kids. It seemed like such a loving gesture at the time. "Rachel, you're stretched too thin," he'd said, stroking my hair as I lay exhausted on our couch. "Let me take care of us financially. You focus on your mom and the kids. That's what matters right now." I believed him. God, I actually believed every word that came out of his mouth. I gave my 2 weeks' notice, thinking I was making the right decision for my family, thinking my husband had my best interests at heart. I had no idea he was already sleeping with Jennifer. Jennifer had been my best friend since college, 14 years of shared secrets, late-night conversations, and unwavering loyalty. Or at least, that's what I thought it was. She was there when David proposed. She was my maid of honor at our wedding. She's Sophia's godmother, for God's sake. How does someone who's supposed to love you like a sister look you in the eye while sleeping with your husband? The day after my mom's diagnosis, Jennifer showed up at my door with a casserole, tissues, and that sympathetic smile I'd seen 1,000 times before. She hugged me tight, let me cry on her shoulder, and told me everything would be okay. She sat at my kitchen table holding my hand, while I poured out my fears about watching my mother forget who I am. "I'm here for you, Rach," she whispered, squeezing my fingers. "Whatever you need, day or night." I remember feeling so grateful, so loved, so supported. What I didn't know was that she'd been in my bed with David just 2 days earlier while I was at the hospital with Mom. In my bed, in the home where my children sleep. The signs were there, I realize now. Little things I dismissed because I trusted them both completely. David started working late more frequently, always with perfectly reasonable explanations. Jennifer would text him directly, instead of going through me, claiming it was about planning a surprise for my birthday or asking his advice on her car troubles. They'd share inside jokes I wasn't part of, exchange glances I interpreted as them bonding over their mutual concern for me. I was the perfect fool. David became almost too attentive after I quit my job. He'd check in constantly, asking where I was, who I was with, what time I'd be home. I thought he was being protective, caring about his pregnant wife who was dealing with so much stress. Now I understand. He was keeping tabs on me, making sure he knew exactly when it was safe to sneak around. And Jennifer? She visited more than ever, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, always with some excuse. "Just wanted to check on you. Brought the kids some treats. Thought you could use the company." The predator bringing comfort to her prey. I never suspected a thing. Not until that Tuesday afternoon, when David left his phone on the kitchen counter. David's phone buzzed on the counter while he was in the shower. Normally, I wouldn't even glance at it. I'm not that wife, the one who goes through her husband's messages looking for problems. I trusted him. But something about the way it kept buzzing, over and over, made my stomach clench with an instinct I couldn't name. I picked it up. The screen showed 3 new messages from Jay. Just Jay. Not Jennifer, like it used to be. Just a single letter, like he was trying to hide something in plain sight. My hands started shaking before I even unlocked the phone. I knew his passcode. It was Sophia's birthday. We'd always shared everything. No secrets, no locked doors between us. That's what I believed anyway. The first message loaded, and my entire world tilted on its axis. Miss you already. Can still smell you on my skin. I stared at those words until they blurred, read them again and again, trying to make them mean something else, anything else. But there was no other interpretation, no innocent explanation. I scrolled up with trembling fingers, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Months of messages, hundreds of them. The affair had been going on since June, maybe longer, while I was dealing with my mother's devastating diagnosis, while I was growing our third child, while I was trusting both of them with every vulnerable piece of my heart. David, she's taking the kids to your place tomorrow afternoon. We'll have 3 hours. Jay, I'll wear that thing you like, the red one. David, God, I can't stop thinking about last night. You're incredible. Jay, better than her? David, there's no comparison. My vision went white at the edges. The phone slipped from my hands and clattered onto the tile floor. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process that this was real, that these words existed, that my husband and my best friend had reduced me to something they compared and dismissed. The shower shut off upstairs. I had maybe 2 minutes before David came down, smiling that loving smile, asking what I wanted for dinner, touching my belly and talking to our unborn baby like he was father of the year. 2 minutes before, I had to decide whether to confront him right then or play it smart. Every instinct screamed at me to explode, to rage, to throw that phone at his face the second he walked into the kitchen. But something cold and calculated was settling into my chest where my heart used to be. I picked up the phone with shaking hands and did something I never thought I'd be capable of. I took screenshots, dozens of them. My fingers moved on autopilot, capturing every vile message, every coordinated lie, every moment they'd stolen from me while pretending to care. I sent them all to my own email. Then I deleted the sent message from his phone, cleared the trash, and placed it back exactly where he'd left it. My heart was pounding so violently I thought I might pass out, but my hands were steady, eerily steady. The bathroom door opened upstairs. I grabbed a dish towel and started wiping down the already clean counter, forcing my face into something resembling normal. Footsteps on the stairs. I focused on breathing. In, out, in, out. Don't scream. Don't cry. Not yet. Hey, babe. David walked into the kitchen, hair wet, smiling that easy smile I'd loved for 8 years. He came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist, his hands resting on my pregnant belly. How are my girls doing? His touch made my skin crawl. This man who'd been inside another woman, inside my best friend, was now touching me like I was precious, like I mattered. We're fine, I heard myself say. My voice sounded almost normal. Sophia and Noah are watching a movie. You're amazing, you know that? He kissed my neck, and I had to bite my tongue to keep from recoiling. I'm so lucky to have you. Better than her? There's no comparison. Those words echoed in my skull like a death knell. I was thinking, David continued, pulling back to grab a beer from the fridge. Maybe I could take the kids to the park on Saturday. Give you some time to rest. You've been doing so much with your mom and everything. How generous. How thoughtful. Planning quality time with our children while probably texting Jennifer to meet him afterward. That would be nice, I said, and I watched him smile, that lying, cheating smile. You look pale, Rach. You feeling okay? I wanted to laugh, to scream, to tell him that no, I'm not okay. I'll never be okay again, because the 2 people I trusted most in this world have been betraying me for months. Instead, I smiled back. Just tired. The baby's been kicking a lot today. Why don't you go lie down? I'll handle dinner and get the kids to bed. Such a good husband. Such a devoted father. Such a goddamn liar. Thanks, honey, I whispered, and walked out of the kitchen before the mask cracked completely. I locked myself in our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. My mind was racing and blank at the same time, like static on a television screen. Part of me kept hoping this was a nightmare, that I'd wake up and everything would be normal again. But the screenshots on my phone were very, very real. I opened my email and looked at them again, torturing myself with the details. The timestamps showed they'd been talking all day, every day. Good morning texts, good night texts, sexting while I was in the next room putting our kids to bed, planning their next encounter while I was at my mother's memory care facility, watching her forget my name. One message stood out, dated from early August. Jay, do you think you'll ever leave her? David, it's complicated. The kids, the pregnancy. I can't just walk away. Jay, But you love me, right? David, you know I do. Just give me time to figure this out. I read those words 5 times, and each time they carved deeper. He loved her. He was considering leaving me. The only thing keeping him here was logistics. Not love, not commitment, not the 8 years we'd built together. Just the inconvenience of untangling his life from mine. My hands moved to my belly, feeling the baby kick. This child growing inside me, created with a man who was planning his exit strategy while I planned the nursery. I thought about all those nights I'd fallen asleep next to him, completely trusting. All those mornings I'd kissed him goodbye, told him I loved him, believed he loved me back. Every single moment had been a lie. And Jennifer, God, Jennifer. I scrolled to the messages where they talked about me specifically. I shouldn't have looked, but I couldn't stop myself. David, she's getting suspicious about all my late nights. Jay, what did you tell her? David, big project at work. She bought it. She always does. Jay, I almost feel bad for her. David, don't. She's happy not knowing. Ignorance is bliss, right? Jay, LOL, true. Besides, it's not like we're hurting anyone if she doesn't find out. I had to clamp my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. They'd laughed about it, justified it, convinced themselves that their betrayal somehow didn't count as long as I remained oblivious. The casual cruelty of it was breathtaking. My phone buzzed with a new text, and my blood turned to ice when I saw the name. Jennifer. Hey girl, I'm bringing lunch tomorrow. You need to eat and we need to catch up. Love you. Love. She had the audacity to say she loved me while she was destroying my life. I stared at that heart emoji for a long time, feeling something cold and dark settle into my bones. This wasn't just betrayal. It was calculated, sustained, gleeful destruction of everything I held sacred. And tomorrow, she was coming to my house, to sit at my table, to hug me and pretend to care while probably planning her next rendezvous with my husband. I typed back with steady fingers. Sounds perfect. See you at noon. Then I started planning. That night, I lay next to David in our bed, listening to him breathe. He fell asleep easily, like he always did. No guilt keeping him awake, no conscience eating at him. Just peaceful, satisfied sleep while I stared at the ceiling, my mind working through possibilities and consequences. I couldn't confront him yet, not without a plan. Not when I was 5 months pregnant, unemployed, and financially dependent on him. He'd convinced me to quit my job, to put myself in this vulnerable position, and now I understood why. Control. He wanted me trapped, unable to leave easily when, if, I ever found out. But I wasn't going to be trapped. I was going to be smart. Around 3 a.m, I slipped out of bed and went downstairs to the home office. I started with our financial documents, bank statements, investment accounts, credit card bills. I photographed everything with my phone, uploading them to a cloud drive David didn't know I had. 8 years of marriage meant I knew where he kept everything. All his passwords, all his secret hiding places that weren't secret at all. I found charges I'd never noticed before. Expensive hotels in Austin when he claimed to be working late. Jewelry purchases I'd never received. Dinner receipts from restaurants we'd never been to together. The evidence was everywhere. A paper trail of betrayal going back 7 months, maybe longer. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt cold, clinical, like I was documenting someone else's life falling apart. Next, I researched divorce lawyers. Not just any lawyers. The best family law attorneys in Austin. The ones who specialized in protecting women and children. The ones with reputations for being ruthless. I bookmarked their websites, saved their phone numbers, read reviews from other betrayed wives who'd fought and won. Then I did something that made me feel dirty but necessary. I looked up STD testing locations. Because if David had been sleeping with Jennifer, who knew who else there might have been? Who knew what diseases he might have exposed me to? Exposed our unborn baby to? The thought made bile rise in my throat. I scheduled an appointment for Thursday morning, telling myself I'd claim it was just routine prenatal testing if David asked. He wouldn't question it. He never questioned anything about the pregnancy, too consumed with his double life to pay real attention. By the time the sun started rising, I had a plan, a 30-day plan to get everything in order before I burned his world to the ground. Day 1, get tested, protect my health and the baby's. Day 2 through 10, document everything. Every late night, every suspicious text, every lie. Day 11, consult with divorce attorneys, find the right one. Day 12 through 20, gather more financial records, open my own bank account, secure documents. Day 21, tell my parents. I'd need their support, both emotional and potentially financial. Day 30. Confront him with everything, with witnesses present, with legal protection already in motion. But first, I had to survive lunch with Jennifer. I heard David stirring upstairs, getting ready for work. I quickly closed all the browser tabs and deleted my search history, then made my way to the kitchen to start coffee, like nothing had changed. "Morning, babe," he said, coming down the stairs in his suit, looking handsome and professional, and completely unaware that his wife had just spent the night planning his destruction. "Morning," I replied, handing him his travel mug. "Jennifer's coming for lunch today." "That's nice," he said, kissing my forehead. "Tell her I said hi." The audacity nearly broke me. Jennifer arrived at exactly noon, holding a bag of Thai takeout and wearing a sundress I'd helped her pick out last month. She looked radiant, glowing even, and I realized with sick clarity that she was happy. My suffering had made her happy. "There's my girl," she said, pulling me into a hug that I had to force myself not to recoil from. Her perfume, expensive floral, filled my nostrils, and I wondered if David liked that scent on her skin, if he'd bought it for her with our money. "Hey, Jen." I smiled, and it felt like my face might crack. "Come in. The kids are having quiet time upstairs." We settled at the kitchen table, the same table where she'd held my hand and comforted me about my mother's diagnosis. The same table where we'd planned Sophia's birthday party and laughed over wine, back when I could drink, back when I thought she was my sister in every way that mattered. "So how are you holding up?" she asked, serving pad thai onto plates. "I know things have been so hard with your mom." The concern in her voice sounded genuine. That's what made it so sick. She'd perfected the performance. She could look me in the eye and pretend to care while actively destroying my life. "Some days are harder than others," I said truthfully. "But David's been really supportive." Her face flickered, just for a second, with something I couldn't quite read. Guilt? Satisfaction? Triumph? "He's a good man," she said carefully. "You're lucky to have him." "Lucky?" I wanted to throw the hot food in her face. "I am," I agreed, though he's been working such long hours lately. Sometimes I barely see him. I watched her closely. She took a bite of her food, not meeting my eyes. "Well, you know how demanding his job is," she said. "I'm sure he'd rather be home with you and the kids." "I'm sure." I paused, letting the silence stretch. "Actually, I've been meaning to ask you something." Her head snapped up, and for just a moment, I saw fear flash across her face. "Yeah? Have you noticed David acting different lately? You know him almost as well as I do. I can't shake this feeling that something's off." The fear turned to calculation. She was deciding how to play this, what story to tell, how to protect their secret. "Different how?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. "I don't know. Distant, maybe? Like his mind is somewhere else." I leaned forward, making my voice vulnerable, playing the naive wife. "You don't think, it's probably crazy, but you don't think he could be seeing someone?" I watched her face closely, cataloging every micro-expression, the slight widening of her eyes, the way her fingers tightened around her fork, the tiny swallow before she answered. "Rachel." She reached across the table and grabbed my hand, and it took everything in me not to rip it away. "David loves you. He worships you. There's no way he'd ever cheat. You're just stressed and pregnant and dealing with your mom. Your mind is playing tricks on you. The gaslighting was flawless. If I didn't know the truth, I would have believed her. I would have felt silly for suspecting anything." "You're probably right," I said softly. "I'm just being paranoid." "Of course you are." She squeezed my hand. "David would never hurt you. And if he did, I'd kill him myself. You know that, right?" I smiled at her. This woman who'd been my best friend for 14 years. This woman who was sleeping with my husband and lying to my face with practiced ease. "I know," I said. "What would I do without you?" "You'll never have to find out." She grinned. "I'm not going anywhere." That's what she thought. After Jennifer left, I sat in my car in the driveway of the clinic, staring at the building where I was about to get tested for STDs. This wasn't something I ever imagined doing while pregnant with my third child, married to a man I thought was faithful. But here I was. The waiting room was sterile and quiet. I filled out forms with shaking hands, checking boxes I never thought would apply to me. Reason for visit, possible exposure through partner infidelity. Writing those words made it real in a way the text messages somehow hadn't. The nurse who called me back was kind, professional, and didn't ask questions when she saw my wedding ring and pregnant belly. I suppose she'd seen it all before. Desperate wives like me, trying to protect themselves from husbands who were supposed to protect them. Everything came back clean, the doctor told me an hour later, and I nearly cried with relief. But I'd recommend retesting in a few weeks, and again after delivery. Some infections have longer incubation periods. Clean. Our baby was safe. That was something at least. I drove to my parents' house in Round Rock afterward, needing to see my mom even though she might not remember me today. My dad, Robert, answered the door looking exhausted. He'd aged 10 years in the 3 months since Mom's diagnosis. "Rachel, sweetheart, she's having a rough day," he warned. I found Mom in the living room, staring out the window with vacant eyes. Some days she knew me. Some days I was a stranger. Today seemed to be somewhere in between. "Hi, Mama," I said softly, sitting beside her. She turned to me, confusion flickering across her face. "You're the girl with the pretty hair. Not her daughter. Just a girl." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "That's right. And you're the lady with the beautiful smile." She smiled then, vague but genuine, and patted my hand. This woman who raised me, who taught me to be strong, who would have destroyed anyone who hurt me, she was slipping away piece by piece, and she'd never know that her daughter's world was falling apart. "Dad," I said later, as he walked me to my car, "I need to tell you something, but not today. Soon. I need you to know that I might need help. Real help." His eyes sharpened with concern. "Is it David?" My father had always been perceptive. I shouldn't have been surprised. "Soon," I repeated. "I promise. I just need to handle some things first." He pulled me into a hug, and I let myself be small and safe for just a moment. "Whatever you need, Rachel. Whatever it is, I'm here." I drove home with my test results in my purse. Clean, thank God, and a new resolve hardening in my chest. I'd made it through lunch with Jennifer without breaking. I'd protected my baby's health. I'd secured my father's support for when everything exploded. 30 days, I'd given myself. But I was realizing I might not need that long. The rage was building, burning through the shock and grief, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could play the oblivious wife. David was working late again that night. Of course he was. I pulled up our cell phone account online and downloaded months of call logs. Every number, every text, every timestamp. More evidence for the pile. More nails in his coffin. My phone buzzed with a text from him. "Don't wait up. This project is taking forever. Love you." And immediately after, I saw his location update on the family tracking app. He wasn't at his office. He was at a hotel downtown. The same hotel that had appeared on our credit card statement 4 times in the past 2 months. My hands clenched around the phone. 29 days left. But who was counting? I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together, David and Jennifer in that hotel room, laughing about how stupid I was, how easy it had been to fool me. The humiliation burned hotter than the betrayal. Around midnight, I made a decision that would change everything. I got dressed quietly, checked on Sophia and Noah sleeping peacefully in their rooms, and called my dad. "Can you come stay with the kids? I need to go out. Rachel, it's midnight. Please, Dad. I need you to trust me." He arrived 20 minutes later, still in his pajamas, concern etched deep in his face. "What's going on?" "I'll explain everything soon. I promise. Just watch the kids." I drove to the hotel downtown, my heart hammering against my ribs. David's car was in the parking garage, exactly where the GPS said it would be, and 2 spots over. Jennifer's white SUV, the one with the best auntie ever sticker that Sophia had put on the bumper last Christmas. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to decide what to do. Confront them? Take pictures? Call the police for what? Adultery isn't a crime. Then I saw them. They came out of the hotel lobby together, David's arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. They were laughing about something, completely relaxed, like they had every right to be there, like they hadn't just betrayed everyone who loved them. Jennifer reached up and kissed him. Not a quick peck, but a deep, passionate kiss that lasted too long. His hand moved to her hair, the same way he used to touch me, the same way he'd touched me that very morning before leaving for work. Something inside me snapped. I got out of the car. I didn't plan it. I didn't think. I just moved, walking across the parking garage toward them, my pregnant belly leading the way. "Rachel?" David's voice cracked like a gunshot in the quiet night. His face went white. Jennifer froze, her lipstick smeared, guilt written across every feature. "Don't." My voice came out cold, steady, nothing like the screaming I'd imagined. Don't say a single fucking word. Rachel, I can explain, David started, stepping away from Jennifer like she was on fire. You can explain. I laughed, and it sounded unhinged even to my own ears. You can explain why you're at a hotel at midnight with my best friend. Please, David, explain it to me. Make it make sense. Jennifer found her voice, and the audacity of it nearly floored me. Rachel, this isn't what it looks like. You sat at my table 6 hours ago. I turned to her, and she actually stepped back from whatever she saw in my face. You held my hand. You told me David would never hurt me. You looked me in my eyes and lied while planning to fuck my husband the same night. Rachel, please. Jennifer's voice cracked. Were you ever really my friend? Or was this always the plan? Get close to me so you could take everything I have. It just happened, she whispered. We didn't mean... It just happened? My voice finally rose, echoing off the concrete walls. For 7 months, it just kept happening, over and over. In my bed, while I was taking care of my dying mother. David tried to move closer. Rachel, let's go home. We can talk about this. Don't you dare come near me. I backed away, my hand instinctively protecting my belly. Don't you ever touch me again. Think about the baby, he said desperately. You're upset. You're pregnant. This stress isn't good. You should have thought about the baby before you fucked her. The confrontation in that parking garage should have been the end of it. I should have gotten in my car, driven to a lawyer, and started the divorce proceedings quietly and strategically like I'd planned. But rage doesn't follow logic, and I was done being quiet. I want everyone to know, I said, my voice shaking with fury. Your parents, David. Her parents. Everyone who thinks you're such a good man, such a devoted husband. They all need to know what you really are. Rachel, please. Think about what you're doing. David reached for me again. Don't. I slapped his hand away. I am thinking. For the first time in months, I'm seeing clearly. You isolated me. You convinced me to quit my job, to depend on you completely, so I'd be trapped when I found out. But I'm not trapped. I'm done. You're being hysterical. Do not tell me I'm being hysterical. I screamed, and Jennifer actually flinched. I have screenshots, David. Months of messages. Better than her? There's no comparison. I have hotel receipts. I have call logs. I have everything. His face transformed from pleading to something darker, something I'd never seen before. You went through my phone? That's what you're concerned about? Your privacy? I laughed bitterly. Yes, I went through your phone. And I found out my husband is a cheating piece of shit who's been gaslighting me for months. If you expose this, you'll ruin everything, David said, his voice turning cold. My career, our finances, the kids' stability. You'll destroy our family over a mistake. A mistake? My voice echoed through the garage. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. This is calculated, sustained betrayal. And you didn't destroy our family, David. You did. You chose this. Jennifer finally spoke up, tears streaming down her face. I never meant to hurt you. But you did it anyway, over and over. You came to my house. You hugged my children. You pretended to care about my mother dying while you were fucking my husband. I turned back to David. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling a family meeting. Both sets of parents, yours and hers. And I'm telling them everything. You can't do that. Watch me. I started walking back to my car, my legs shaking so badly I could barely stand. Rachel, wait, David called out. We can work this out. For the kids, for the baby. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. I turned back one last time. You want to fix this? You can't fix broken glass once it's shattered. You can't unring a bell. And you can't unfuck my best friend. I got in my car and drove away, leaving them standing in that parking garage, their secret finally exposed to at least one person. Me. When I got home, my dad took one look at my face and pulled me into his arms. Tell me everything, he said. So I did. I showed him the screenshots, the receipts, everything. And I watched my gentle father's face transform into something frightening. I'll make the calls, he said quietly. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Both families. My house. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because if I don't handle this properly, I might kill him myself. That night, I slept at my parents' house with my children, leaving David alone in the home we'd built together. He called 17 times. I didn't answer once. The reckoning was coming, and I was ready. The next afternoon, both living rooms couldn't contain everyone, so we gathered in my parents' backyard. My dad had set up chairs in a circle like some twisted family intervention. David's parents, Margaret and Frank, arrived first, confused about the emergency meeting. Jennifer's parents, Carol and Thomas, came next, and I watched Jennifer's face go pale when she realized what was happening. David showed up last, and the look he gave me was pure hatred. Good. I wanted him to hate me. It was better than the fake love he'd been feeding me for months. "Thank you all for coming," I started, my voice surprisingly steady. My hand rested on my pregnant belly, a reminder of what was at stake. "I've gathered you here because you all deserve to know the truth about David and Jennifer." "Rachel, don't do this," David warned, his voice low and threatening. "Your son," I continued, looking directly at Margaret and Frank, "has been having an affair for the past 7 months. With her." I pointed at Jennifer, who had started crying. "My best friend, my children's godmother." The silence was deafening. "That's ridiculous," Margaret said, but her voice wavered. "David would never—" "I have proof." I pulled out my phone and started reading messages aloud. Every vile word, every plan they'd made, every lie they'd told. I watched the color drain from both sets of parents' faces as the reality settled in. Better than her? There's no comparison. I read David's words back to him. "You wrote that about me. The mother of your children. Your pregnant wife." Thomas stood up abruptly, his face red with rage. "Jennifer, tell me this isn't true." Jennifer couldn't even look at her father. She just sat there, sobbing, which was all the confirmation anyone needed. "You destroyed this family," Carol said to her daughter, her voice breaking. "How could you do this to Rachel? To those babies?" "I love him," Jennifer whispered pathetically. "You love him?" I laughed bitterly. "You don't know what love is. Love doesn't sneak around. Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't destroy." David finally exploded. "You had no right to air our private business like this." "Private?" I stood up, shaking with rage. "You made it my business when you fucked her in my bed, when you risked my health and our baby's health, when you manipulated me into quitting my job so I'd be trapped." Frank grabbed David's arm as he lunged toward me. "Don't you dare touch her. She's ruining everything," David shouted. "My career, my reputation. You ruined it yourself," my dad said quietly, dangerously. "Now get out of my house before I forget I'm a civilized man." Margaret was crying. Thomas looked like he wanted to kill someone. Carol sat frozen in shock. "You're both dead to me," Thomas said to Jennifer, his voice cold. "Don't call. Don't come by. You're no longer our daughter." Jennifer's sobs turned hysterical, but I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No pity. Just emptiness where my heart used to be. David didn't leave quietly. After the confrontation in my parents' backyard, he sat in his car for 20 minutes, calling and texting me obsessively. 43 calls, 67 texts, each one more unhinged than the last. "You'll regret this. You've destroyed everything. Those kids will hate you for breaking up their family." I blocked his number. That's when things got dangerous. Around 10 that night, my dad's security camera caught David pulling into the driveway. He was drunk, stumbling, wild-eyed, nothing like the composed man who'd kissed me goodbye that morning pretending to go to work. He started pounding on the door, screaming my name. The kids woke up crying, and I held them both while my dad called 911. "Rachel, open this goddamn door. You can't keep my children from me." "Sir, the police are on their way," my dad shouted through the door. "Leave now, or you'll be arrested." "This is my family." David kicked the door, and I heard wood splinter. "She's turning everyone against me. Jennifer won't answer my calls. My parents won't talk to me. This is all her fault." That's when I heard the crash. David throwing something through my dad's front window. Glass shattered everywhere. Sophia screamed, and Noah buried his face in my chest. "Daddy?" Sophia whimpered, and my heart broke into a million new pieces. My dad rushed us into the back bedroom while David continued his rampage outside. More crashes. The mailbox being ripped from the ground. Headlights of his car flooding the driveway as he backed over my mom's flower garden. "I gave you everything." David's voice was raw, almost inhuman. "I worked myself to death for this family, and this is how you repay me." The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so terrifying. Sirens finally cut through the night. Red and blue lights painted the walls. I heard shouting, scuffling, David yelling that I was keeping his children hostage, that I was crazy, that this was all a misunderstanding. "Sir, you need to calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down. That's my wife in there. My kids." more struggling, then the unmistakable click of handcuffs. I watched from the bedroom window as they put David in the back of the police car. He was still screaming, still blaming me, still refusing to accept that he'd done this to himself. The officers took statements, documented the damage, photographed the broken window, the destroyed mailbox, the ruined garden. One of them, a kind woman with tired eyes, handed me paperwork for an emergency restraining order. "File this first thing tomorrow," she said gently, "and document everything. Every call, every text, every threat. You're going to need it." That night, I held my children and realized something terrifying. The man I'd married, the father of my kids, was a stranger capable of violence when he didn't get his way, and I was carrying his fourth child. The restraining order was approved within 48 hours. David wasn't allowed within 500 feet of me, the kids, or my parents' house. He made bail the next morning, and within an hour, I received a call from his lawyer, an expensive divorce attorney from downtown Austin, who spoke in cold, calculated tones. "Mrs. Patterson, my client is willing to negotiate a fair settlement if you agree to keep this matter private." "Private?" I almost laughed. "Your client destroyed property, terrorized his children, and got himself arrested. That's public record." He was emotionally distressed. "The charges will likely be reduced to a misdemeanor." "I don't care what they're reduced to. I want a divorce, full custody, and every asset we've accumulated divided fairly, which means I get more than half since I gave up my career at his manipulation." There was a pause. "Mrs. Patterson, you should know that Texas is a community property state, and without employment, your financial position in a custody battle is stronger than you think," I interrupted. "Because I have 7 months of documented infidelity, including hotel receipts paid with marital funds. I have messages proving he isolated me financially on purpose, and now I have a police report showing he's violent and unstable." Another pause, longer this time. "I'll be in touch," the lawyer said, and hung up. I hired my own attorney that afternoon, Rebecca Chen, a shark in a pencil skirt who specialized in high-conflict divorces. She reviewed my evidence with clinical efficiency, nodding occasionally, her expression never changing. "This is airtight," she finally said. "The affair alone would be enough, but the financial manipulation and the arrest? He'll be lucky to get supervised visitation." "I want supervised visitation," I said firmly. "He scared our children. They shouldn't be alone with him until he gets help." "Agreed. I'll file tomorrow. Expect this to get ugly. Men like David don't handle losing control well." She was right. Over the next 2 weeks, David violated the restraining order 3 times, showing up at Sophia's school, sending gifts to my parents' house, creating fake social media accounts to message me. Each violation was documented, reported, and added to the growing case file against him. Jennifer tried reaching out once, a long, rambling email about how sorry she was, how she never meant for things to go this far, how she hoped we could, eventually, be friends again. I deleted it without responding. She didn't deserve my words, my anger, or my forgiveness. My lawyer also discovered something interesting. David had opened a separate bank account 4 months ago and had been funneling money into it, $20,000 of marital assets, hidden away, probably planning his exit strategy with Jennifer once the baby was born. "Add financial fraud to the complaint," Rebecca said with a predatory smile. "Let's make sure he understands there are consequences for every choice he made." The divorce papers were served at his office, in front of his colleagues. Petty? Maybe. But after everything he'd done, I felt he deserved a taste of public humiliation. I went into labor 3 weeks early, at 2 a.m. on a cold November night. The stress, the doctor said. My body couldn't take any more. My dad drove me to the hospital while my mom, having one of her rare lucid moments, stayed with Sophia and Noah. I labored alone, no husband holding my hand, no best friend timing contractions, just me and the nurses, bringing another life into this shattered world. Emma was born at 6:47 a.m., weighing 6 pounds, 2 ounces. Perfect. Healthy. Completely unaware that her father was a stranger I'd never allow near her unsupervised. David found out through his lawyer and immediately filed an emergency motion for hospital visitation rights. Rebecca blocked it within hours, citing his recent arrest and restraining order violations. "He can meet his daughter when a judge says he can," she told me firmly. "Not before." He showed up anyway. Hospital security escorted him out while he shouted about parental rights and how I was poisoning his children against him. The nurses moved me to a private room with restricted access after that. Jennifer sent flowers. Yellow roses, my favorite, once upon a time. The card read, "Congratulations on your beautiful baby girl. I hope someday you can forgive me." I had the nurses throw them away. The custody hearing was scheduled for January. Rebecca was confident. The evidence was overwhelming. David would get supervised visitation only every other weekend at a court-approved facility. He'd have to complete anger management and therapy before even being considered for unsupervised time. "What about Jennifer?" I asked during one of our meetings. "Does she face any consequences?" "Legally? No. Adultery isn't a crime in Texas," Rebecca said. "But socially? She's destroyed. I've heard through the grapevine that she lost several clients. She's a wedding planner, ironically. Word got out about the affair, and brides don't want someone who helped destroy a marriage planning their special day. It wasn't enough, but it was something. My parents helped me find a small apartment in Round Rock, close to them but far enough from David's usual haunts. I enrolled Sophia in a new school, started therapy for all 3 kids. They needed help processing why Daddy didn't live with us anymore, why he could only visit in a special room with strangers watching. "Is Daddy bad?" Sophia asked me one night, her 6-year-old eyes too knowing. "Daddy made bad choices," I said carefully. "But we're going to be okay, I promise." She nodded, seeming satisfied, then asked, "Is Aunt Jennifer bad too?" I paused. How do you explain betrayal to a child? "Aunt Jennifer isn't our family anymore," I finally said. "Sometimes people we love hurt us, and we have to protect ourselves. Like when you told Daddy he couldn't come to Grandpa's house. Exactly like that, baby." She hugged me tight, and I realized my children were more resilient than I'd given them credit for. They'd survive this. We all would. 6 months later, I barely recognized my own life, in the best possible way. The divorce was finalized in March. I got the house, which I immediately sold. David got his precious career, though his reputation never quite recovered. Turns out corporate Austin is a small world, and word travels fast about men who cheat on their pregnant wives. The custody arrangement was exactly what Rebecca promised. Supervised visitation every other weekend. David showed up to maybe half of them. The other half, he'd cancel last minute, usually with some excuse about work. I stopped making excuses for him to the kids. They were learning who their father really was, and that wasn't my responsibility to manage anymore. Jennifer moved to Dallas 3 months ago. I heard through mutual friends, former mutual friends, that the affair with David ended the night of the family meeting. Apparently, being publicly exposed and disowned by her parents killed whatever fantasy romance they'd built. She tried apologizing again through a handwritten letter. I burned it without reading past the first line. Some betrayals don't earn forgiveness. Some people don't deserve space in your healing. I went back to work in April, a better position than the one I'd left. HR director at a tech startup that offered flexible hours and remote work. Turned out, that gap in my resume paired with my story made me more employable, not less. Companies value resilience, and I had that in spades now. My mom's Alzheimer's progressed. Some days she knows me. Some days I'm the nice lady who visits. I've made peace with both versions. My dad and I hired a full-time caregiver, splitting the cost. He's dating again. A kind widow from his church who brings casseroles and doesn't mind that he sometimes cries about losing the love of his life by inches. The kids are thriving. Sophia stopped asking about Jennifer. Noah barely remembers when things were different. And Emma, my beautiful, unexpected Emma, will grow up knowing that her mother chose strength over staying comfortable in a lie. I'm not the same woman who found those text messages on a Tuesday afternoon. That woman was trusting, maybe naive, definitely too willing to sacrifice herself for people who didn't deserve it. This woman knows her worth. This woman has boundaries made of steel. This woman doesn't need a husband or a best friend to feel complete. I look at my 3 kids sleeping peacefully in our small apartment, and I realize something profound. David didn't break me. He freed me. The affair, the betrayal, the public humiliation, it all hurt like hell. It still does sometimes, late at night when the kids are asleep and the apartment is too quiet. But I survived. More than that, I rebuilt. My name is Rachel. I discovered my husband's affair with my closest friend, and this is how I took my life back. You made it to the end. Thank you. Your likes and subscriptions keep these stories coming. We'll see you in the next video with another jaw-dropping tale.